Hey guys, it's Justin from Simplified Investing. I hope you guys are all having a great weekend. This is our weekly watch list video highlighting a few stocks we are watching. Alright, so getting things started here, let's break down /NQ, which is going to be the NASDAQ here, and let's go into a new drawing set. And what happens here in really interesting and actually kind of bearish is we break above these prior highs right around 18,120,150, and then boom, we slam this lower and then close lower. And if we break below this, we have a lot of room lower here on this gap. So if we go in to a shorter term time frame, you can see how we boom, we spike up, it looks really strong, and then we get a bearish engulfing and really a selling pressure for the rest of the day. So a super weak movement here, and let me minimize this and bring it up here. Super weak movement off of this, but when we go out to the longer time frame chart, it's really an indecision bar. So back above 18,120,150, I am liking this to the upside. Now we don't have any prior levels to trade or prior support and resistances because we are at all-time highs. However, to the downside, let's go in here and let's go into the 15-minute. I'd be watching around this support region around like 17,612. If we do break below this structure here, keeping this on close watch here again. That weekly and indecision candle, and then that daily, however, looking weak. So we do have room to gap down in or gap fill down into like 17,500. Going to use this as confirmation here on Monday if we trade below this low right around this close, what is 17,960.50, then likely to see a downside move and potential downtrend structure. Now, if we trade back above this range on Monday, it does set up on Tuesday for a follow through and continuation on this failed breakdown here on this daily chart. Let's go into a few setups that I personally like. Now, the first one here, I mean, it's not the strongest daily candle, but what I personally see on this one, and it's really interesting setup here, is let's take a look at this weekly structure. So obviously we sold off hard, as did the market here in 2022. So let's take a look. If we look at just weekly structure, so lower high, this is a lower high here. What's right here? Lower high. We reversed at a lower high. Now all of a sudden, we're breaking this prior pivot. This is the first change of structure that Square has gotten on the weekly chart since we sold off from over here. So really, really important context to note into this is we're finally breaking structure. We have been accumulating for a long time, and this one really does have room to run to the upside. Now, when we look at this weekly chart, what I compare it to in something to note is let's take a look at Meta. And let's go into the 5-year. What happened on Meta here? So we have a lower high, pivot, lower high pivot here, and then we get this break, and then boom, we finally break that structure here on an earnings report with a big bar just like Square has. What happens here after this? Obviously, you guys can see this massive run that we have made since then. Now, I'm not saying Square is going to get a 400% run like Meta has, but a very, very similar weekly structure coming off of an earnings report. And really the thing that I want to note here on Square that was also really interesting is it wasn't the strongest of earnings. It missed on its EPS and it missed on the sales, but yet it still gapped up 16%. So keeping that on watch, the tides are shifting on this. Before, if this thing would have missed, it would have been sold into hard instead of gapping up 16%. Now, the guidance was a little better than expected, but to miss on both the bottom line and EPS and gapping up 16% on a stock that's beat down, that's a clear change of structure, and I want to note that going forward. Let's go into another setup here. And it's going to be Meta. And coming from the, let's go into the weekly here. Actually, that's the daily. Let's go into the weekly. So we get this inside bar, like this 3-bar play, and now we're breaking out over 490. I like this first target into 494.36, but an overall macro target up into that 500 and then that 520 region overhead. We are at all-time highs, so we do have to resort to psych levels, but I do think this one can trade 500 this week. Amazon. This is a powerful weekly setup. So we get this move up. What looked like a bearish engulfing closed back in this range, and then we get a bullish engulfing closing near the highs. If we hold over this 175.39 region, I am eyeing this back into this weekly swing around 187.90. This one does have a lot of potential if we can get strength over this prior 52-week high, right around 175.40. If it does, I'm going to be eyeing any trending structure on the daily chart, and let's go into the daily. Any trending structure on the daily chart, i.e. pullbacks or breakouts, to take that up into that macro target on the weekly chart right around 187.90, and if it does test that high, it's likely to hit these 52-week highs. And one quick short, really interested in this short here, back below 830. If we get back below 830, I do think we have room down into 705 here on SMCI. Ideally, we get the break and then that retest of 830 that fails to push down into 705, but this one is looking very, very weak and going to be keeping it on watch this week for a continuation sell-off after making a lower high right here. That wraps up our watch list video. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please leave any comments down below of what you guys are watching this week. Thank you.